it's Nate Savage here, and welcome to this long overdue video on probably the #1 most requested song I get in my email inbox, and it's Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen. It was written in 1984, and it's probably one of those songs that's made popular, or at least to me, made more popular by done as a cover by Jeff Buckley. And I remember the first time that I heard his version of this tune, I remember exactly where I was. I was in the back of a van in Hawaii on tour, and my friend put it on, and I was like, wow, what song is this? This is really special. It's really cool. Jeff Buckley put it out on his 1994 release, Grace, just a few years before he died, very young, 31 years old, but I'm really glad that he at least got this out before that happened. So let's get into this. What we're going to do is learn the chords. I'm just going to go through some basic chords that are used here. It's just a handful of them. I'm going to teach you a strumming pattern that you can use throughout the entire song, a finger picking pattern that you can use for the entire song as well. And then we'll go through the chord progression and see how that finger picking pattern and strumming pattern are applied to the entire song. And we're not going to do the whole thing. We're just going to do one verse and one chorus because the song is really repetitive. If you can play one verse and one chorus, you can play the entire tune. The song is in the key of C major, but I'm going to be using a capo on this one because Jeff Buckley played it with G shapes and I wanted to keep that same sound. And if you don't want to play it with these shapes, that's fine. You can move it to any key that you like using G shapes, move your capo around. But if you're playing a regular G major chord, and I'll just tell you how to get the capo on here real quick. If you move that up to where it's an A flat, an A, then a B flat, a B, and then a C, your root notes will be a C if you're here on the 8th fret. So you can move your capo up the same number of frets to the 5th fret here. You'll be playing G shapes, but you'll be playing in the key of C major. All right, another little piece of information you need to know before you get into this tune is it is in 12/8 time. And if you've never counted 12/8 time before, it just goes like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And it's kind of like a doubled version of 6/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So whichever way you want to think about it is fine. Just keep that in mind. You have that big pendulum feel. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 throughout the entire song. All right, there are only a handful of chords that you need to be able to play through the song, 6 to be precise. And I'm going to be pretty specific with the voicings just to kind of retain the sound of the Jeff Buckley version. The first one is a G major chord, but it's the 4-finger version. The next one is an E minor 7, but it's also the 4-finger version, so you can just leave your 3rd and 4th fingers planted up there and switch to your E minor. Next one is like the C add 9, and you keep your 3rd and 4th fingers planted there and switch to your C chord. Leave that low E string out for this one, don't touch it or mute it. Next is a regular D major chord. And depending on which version or which sound you like, the next chord you can do 2 different chords on. You can play a B7, or you can play like a D sharp diminished chord. And if you don't know either of those, either one will work, just depends what sound you want. But if you don't know this B7, middle finger would be the 2nd fret, because I'm treating this capo as the 2nd fret. It's really the 7th fret though, of the A string. First finger would get like the 1st fret of the D, 3rd finger, 2nd fret of the G, open B string, and pinky will grab the high E string on what will be the 2nd fret. And you just leave the low E string out there. So you can play that chord, or you can play this kind of ubiquitous, fully diminished 7th chord, D sharp diminished 7. It's a really kind of symmetrical feeling chord. If you've never played it before, just 1st finger, 1st fret of the D string, 3rd finger, 2nd fret of the G, 2nd finger, 1st fret of the B, pinky, 2nd fret of the high E string. So if you need to take some time to get these chords down, that's the first step to being able to play this song. And on this one, you should leave the low E and A strings out and just play the top 4 strings. Okay, once you have the chords under your fingers, the first thing that I want to show you is just a simple strumming pattern that you can use throughout the entire song. And you're going to notice that the chord changes are kind of grouped in beats of 6 or beats of 3, so keep that in mind. And really easy strumming pattern is just all downstrokes, and think about it in chunks of 6 beats. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just straight all downstrokes on all the 8th notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And one way that I kind of dress this up every now and then is to put a 6 and, so down up on beat 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and. Let me do that a little bit slower, count it, and then I'll speed it up so you can get a context for it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and. So. That's the first thing. Once you have the chords down, just get that strumming pattern down to where you're comfortable with it. And again, you can use just all downstrokes. That will work out totally fine as well. Okay, the main finger style pattern that I use as an accompaniment for this tune, and I use just one generic one and kind of manipulate it to fit the chords, whether the chords change on like beat 7 or beat 7, 8, 9, 10, whichever one it is. But the main coordination that you need to get together is this. Again, all it is thumb on the low E string, thumb on the A string, index finger on the G string, and then second and third fingers on the high B and E strings at the same time. So far, thumb, thumb, index, middle, and ring. And then come back down, index finger on the G. And then you need to hit one more note with your thumb on the low E string. This is the one that varies from chord change to chord change, but it's always there. And then some low note with your thumb, and you'll see how this works out. But just get this basic coordination down. And for right now, a good way to learn this is that last thumb. Just hit on the A string. Thumb, thumb, index, top 2 strings, back to the index, and then thumb again. And then just work on looping it like that. So that's really kind of the prerequisite to getting into playing through this song in an accompaniment finger style pattern. Work on that first, and then you can jump into the chord progression. And I'll walk you through how to apply this finger style pattern. And the strumming part will be kind of secondary because it's a little bit more plain and straightforward, but we'll go through that at the same time. So we start off on a G chord and go to an E minor chord. And that's really the intro and the first part of the verse for this song. So the intro would be something like this. Okay, and all you're doing is applying your finger picking pattern. So thumb, thumb again, index, top 2 strings, back to the index, and then right here you have your thumb to end the pattern with, but I'm doing an F sharp to walk down to an E minor, where I start the pattern over again. So once I hit that F sharp, I just go to the E minor and play the whole pattern again. But once you do your last thumb on the E minor, hit an F sharp again on the low E string. And that kind of loops you back around into the G major chord, and you just keep repeating that. So G, with that F sharp note being the last note of each fingerstyle pattern that connects one chord to the other. So for the sake of this lesson, let's just say that you play that twice for the intro, and then you move into the part where he starts to sing, and you play it 2 more times, that G to E minor progression for the beginning of the song. So intro. Singing. And then when you get there, it changes a little bit so you can get to the next chord. But let me just show you what I would do with the strumming there. It's basically the same thing. Just count, keep track of where you are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the intro. Singing. Okay, once you get through that first singing part after the G to E minor and G to E minor again, instead of going to the F sharp, you hit what would be just a B if you're playing this in an open position. So it'll be like 2nd fret, and that leads you into the C major chord where you play your pattern. And you do the same pattern here, but your thumb moves to the A string and the D string. So, And from there, that's 6 beats for that C chord, or half a measure. And then from there, you just roll up for 3 beats on that C chord. And I usually use just thumb, index, and middle. 7, 8, 9. And then you move to a D chord for 10, 11, 12 beats in this measure, and just roll up on the lowest 3 notes of a D chord. And then you go back to the next chord. So let me play it all the way up to this point for you so you can get context for it. So start on the G. We'll start where the singing starts. And if you're doing strumming, let me show you how that would sound with a C chord. It would just be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8, 9. Switch to the D for 10, 11, 12. 10, 11, 12. From there, you move to the G, do your pattern. And on this G, I just hit the A string because I have to move to a D chord next for 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And sometimes instead of just rolling up and down that chord, I'll put in a little trill there just to make it a little more interesting sounding. So it's just a D sus4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And if you're strumming that, just play it 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. From there, you go to a G major chord and just do your regular finger style pattern. But this time I'm playing the A note because I'm about to walk up, or the A string because I'm about to walk up to the C major chord that's next. And again, it's only for 3 beats here, so I just walk up the lowest 3 notes of the C chord. And then I have another 3 beats, 10, 11, 12 on the D chord, so I just walk up the lowest 3 notes of that D chord. And if I'm strumming, I just strum 3 beats for each. So 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that whole measure with the G if you're strumming, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. If you're doing finger style, the next measure is just an E minor to a C add 9. So switch to your E minor chord and play your standard finger picking pattern. And the thumb on the last one for that pattern hits the A string, that B note, and then goes up to the C note to start the next pattern on the C. And again, I'm starting on the A string when it comes to a C chord. Thumb, thumb, index, middle and ring, index, thumb. And this is split evenly on this measure, so you can, if you're strumming, just 6 beats of E and 6 beats of C major. Next measure is a D7 chord, and the first 6 beats are on that D. So I'll just end up rolling up and coming right back down. Thumb, index, middle, ring, middle, index. So that's the pattern for that one. It's kind of the same, a little bit of variation on there. And the next 6 beats of this bar, you can either choose to play a D sharp diminished chord, fully diminished 7th chord, same finger picking pattern, just top 4 strings, roll up and roll back down. Or you can do a B7 chord here. If you do that, your thumb needs to go on the A string. And then your fingers get the top 3 strings. You can just roll up and roll back down. It's really up to you which one you want to use. I like this one. It's a little more dramatic. From here, things get a little more simpler. We go to an E minor chord and just play our finger picking pattern twice. And as I do this one, thumb on the low E string, thumb on the A, index on the G, 2 fingers on the top 2 strings, back to the index, and the last thumb gets the A string. And that's the pattern that you do twice. From there, you move to a C chord for the entire next measure, and it's the same idea. So you play the finger picking pattern twice. You just switch your thumb to starting on the A string for that C chord. And slow this down as much as you need to. It's really critical to get this finger picking pattern down before trying to put it with the chords. After that, go back to an E minor chord, another full measure or 2 rotations of the pattern. And during these full measures of E minor and C, if you're strumming, just strum, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you want to count in 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Then same thing for C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that's one full measure of E minor, one full measure of C, and then you do that again, another full measure of E minor with the same picking patterns, then another full measure of C with the 2 picking patterns. To kind of end the chorus of this song, go back to a G major, play your pattern once, and then go to a D major chord and play your pattern once, starting with your thumb on the D string. And just roll up and roll down. You don't need to play 2 notes with your thumb. Just thumb, index, middle, ring, and back down. And from there, you just go back to the intro of the song, alternating between the G major and the E minor. So the only things that you really need to watch out for are, well, first, learn the chords. Second of all, learn the strumming pattern and the fingerstyle pattern. And then just look at the chord chart and see when the chords are changing and how many beats each chord gets, whether you're doing the strumming version of this or either you're doing the fingerstyle version. Now, if you haven't heard Jeff Buckley's version of this, I'd highly recommend going and listening to it. Let me play through one rotation of this so you can see what it sounds like altogether. So just a little background info on this song. The 2 main artists that made this song great, Leonard Cohen and Jeff Buckley, have both passed, and people will really miss them, but they made some really great art. And in fact, the story behind this song is that Leonard Cohen had like 80 iterations of the verses on this tune, and to finish it, he was in his hotel room in his underwear on the floor, beating his head on the tile to come up with the last version of this tune. And that just goes to show you that great art doesn't always come easy. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know what songs you'd like to learn in the comments of this video. See you later.